Remember that feeling? A car full of friends, a few crumpled bills, and some spare change rattling in the cup holder, and the absolute certainty that you were about to eat like kings. Remember when the dollar menu was actually a dollar menu? When a single glorious buck could get you a burger or fries or a drink? It felt like a magic trick. One coin, one item. Well, that reality is a distant memory. Today, you're more likely to see a viral post of an $8 Big Mac combo in Connecticut deal.
How much did you pay for a Big Mac? One man on Twitter posted signage from a Connecticut McDonald's where he paid $18 for a Big Mac combo meal.
It's not just you. In one recent survey, nearly 2/3 of Americans said they now consider fast food a luxury purchase. Fast food used to be the reliable, cheap backup plan. Now it feels like a financial decision. So what happened? How did we get from 99-cent burgers to this level of sticker shock? It's not just your imagination, and it's not just one thing. We're going to uncover the brutal economic forces that systematically hunted down and killed the dollar menu. And more importantly, we're going to explain why it is never, ever coming back. Before we perform the autopsy, let's remember the golden age. The whole idea of a value menu was simple, a list of a chain's cheapest items, all clustered at one incredibly low price. It was a promise that anyone could afford to walk in and get something to eat. And while we all think of McDonald's, it was actually Wendy's that fired the first shot in the value wars. As far back as 1989, they launched their super value menu with 9 different items, all priced at a crisp 99 cents. The goal wasn't just to sell a cheap burger, it was to let you build a full, satisfying meal on a shoestring budget. Burger King jumped into the fray in the late 90s with its own 99-cent value menu, at times even putting its flagship Whopper on sale for just 99 cents during the most intense periods of the burger wars. But the iconic moment, the one seared into our collective memory, arrived in 2002. McDonald's, facing slow sales during an economic downturn, went national with its official dollar menu. It featured items like the McChicken and the double cheeseburger, each for exactly $1. It completely changed the game. Suddenly, $1 became the industry standard for cheap. The cultural impact was huge. For teenagers, it was financial freedom. A few bucks from a weekend job meant you and your friends could hang out for hours. For parents, on a busy night, it was a pressure valve, an affordable way to feed the whole family without thinking twice. The marketing was brilliant. Your dollar bill was a golden ticket. It wasn't just food, it was a feeling of abundance, and it was the absolute peak of fast food as an everyday, affordable treat. But the idea of cheap fast food didn't just appear in 2002, it was baked into the business from the very beginning. At the first McDonald's locations in the 1950s, the entire menu was basically a value menu. Hamburgers were 15 cents, fries and a drink were a dime each. Even adjusted for inflation, that is ridiculously cheap. Through the 60s and 70s, prices stayed low. The 1980s gave us the combo meal and the Happy Meal, innovations that trained us to always expect a deal or some kind of bundled value. Then came the 90s, the decade of the true burger wars. Chains were locked in a brutal fight for customers, and their main weapon was price. Deep discounts were everywhere. 99-cent Whoppers and Big Macs started appearing on signs, not as a quick promotion, but as a semi-permanent battle cry.
This is a McDonald's commercial break. McDonald's delicious Big Mac sandwich is now only 99 cents. Enjoy it with our golden fries and a refreshing Dr. Pepper. Have you had your break today?
This was the environment that led to Wendy's and Burger King rolling out their 99-cent menus. So when McDonald's launched its national dollar menu in 2002, it was the climax of 50 years of teaching us what to expect. They took the chaotic discounting of the burger wars and standardized it into a simple, powerful promise. And for years, that promise held. The dollar menu was king. So what went wrong? How did this golden age end so abruptly? To understand that, we have to look under the hood of the fast food machine, where a perfect storm of economic pressures was brewing. The death of the dollar menu wasn't a single event. It was a slow, agonizing bleed out caused by 4 relentless economic realities. First and most obvious is inflation. $1 in 2024 is not the same as $1 back then. That 99-cent item from Wendy's in 1989 would need to cost about $2.40 today just to have the same buying power. That iconic McDonald's dollar menu item from 2002, to keep pace with inflation, it would need to be priced at around $1.75 today. For years, as inflation slowly crept up, fast food chains held that $1 price steady. They were essentially subsidizing every single value meal they sold, and the math eventually became impossible. Second, the cost of the food itself skyrocketed. The price of beef, poultry, wheat for buns, and even cooking oil has risen dramatically. These aren't small jumps. Beef prices, for example, have shot up by roughly 30% since 2020. Franchisees started reporting that popular dollar menu items like the McDouble were becoming loss leaders. That means some locations were losing money on every single one they sold, after factoring in the cost of ingredients and labor. This is why you started seeing smaller items on the value menus, or why the double cheeseburger quietly vanished from the $1 list. Third is the human cost, labor. Over the past couple of decades, many states and cities have raised their minimum wage. Recent laws, like the one in California, pushed the minimum wage for workers at large fast food chains to $20 an hour. When you're selling an item for $1, there's almost no margin to absorb higher labor costs. Every second an employee spends on your order eats away at a profit margin that was already razor thin. And finally, there's the cost of the building itself. Commercial real estate, property taxes, and utilities have all climbed steadily. A restaurant that could turn a profit on dollar burgers when its rent was low suddenly found itself struggling when that same lease cost thousands more per month. All these fixed costs have to be covered by the price of the food. The cost of ingredients, labor, and rent were all going up, while the $1 price tag stayed the same. Something had to break. If you're finding this breakdown interesting and are starting to see how these big economic forces show up in your daily life, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. And I have to ask, what's the most outrageous fast food price you've seen recently? Let me know in the comments below. This leads us to the internal conflict that really sealed the dollar menu's fate. The civil war between the franchise owners on the ground and the corporate headquarters in their ivory towers. Here's something many people don't realize: about 95% of McDonald's locations in the US aren't owned by McDonald's corporate. They're owned by individual franchisees. These are small business owners paying for the food, the local labor, and the rent on their specific building. For the corporate brands, the dollar menu was a marketing masterpiece. It drove incredible amounts of traffic and reinforced the brand's image of being affordable. Even if they lost money on a McDouble bar, they could make it back when customers also bought a high-margin soda or a full-price Big Mac. The dollar menu was the hook, but for the franchisees, that hook was starting to hurt. As costs kept rising, they were the ones bleeding cash. Tensions boiled over publicly. Franchisees complained that corporate's obsession with the $1 price point was driving them out of business. Some even started making unapproved price hikes, with a double cheeseburger suddenly costing $1.19, breaking that sacred dollar promise. This friction was the breaking point. The system couldn't survive with corporate demanding a marketing strategy that was bankrupting its own operators. A compromise had to be made, and that compromise was to officially abandon the strict $1 price and move to something more flexible, something that gave franchisees the breathing room they desperately needed. The end of the dollar menu wasn't a public execution. It was a quiet, strategic phase-out designed to keep the feeling of value while slowly inching prices up. First, they introduced tiered menus. Instead of one board with everything for $1, you suddenly saw McDonald's Dollar Menu and More in 2013, which had items at $1, $2, and $5. This later morphed into the $1, $2, $3 dollar menu. This clever trick let them keep a few basic items at the $1 mark to maintain the branding, while pushing popular items into higher price tiers with healthier profit margins. Second, they changed the language. They didn't kill value, they just killed the dollar. Taco Bell's dollar cravings menu quietly became the cravings value menu, with items well over $1. Burger King rolled out its $5 Your Way meal. The message changed from everything here is $1 to you are getting a bargain, even if that bargain now costs you $5. The third and most common tactic today is the rise of the app and the bundle deal. Value is no longer a permanent fixture on the menu. It's a conditional, limited-time offer. Think of the Pick 2 for $6 promotions or the recent return of the temporary $5 meal deal. By pushing deals through their mobile apps, chains can offer selective discounts, drive digital traffic, and create urgency, all without being locked into an unprofitable price forever. Value became something you have to hunt for, not something you can count on. So, where does that leave us? It leaves us with a kind of cultural whiplash. We have these warm, fuzzy memories of a time when fast food felt cheap and easy, a time when anyone with a few coins could get a hot meal. But today's reality is sticker shock. It's that moment at the drive-thru when the total is double what you expected. The data shows that in many cases, fast food prices have outpaced the general rate of inflation. A study by Finance Buzz found that on average, McDonald's menu prices increased by roughly 100% between 2014 and 2024. For example, a McDouble that was $1.19 in 2014 now sells for over $3, so in many locations, a 168% increase. The psychological impact of this is huge. It feels like a broken promise. We were trained for decades to see these brands as the cheapest option, and that's just not true anymore. For many low-income families, fast food has gone from being a safety net to a small luxury they can no longer afford. In fact, one poll found that about a fifth of Americans believe fast food can now be more expensive than a local sit-down restaurant. This brings us to the hard truth. The classic everything for $1 menu is never coming back. As one former McDonald's corporate chef has said publicly, the economics just don't work anymore. The underlying costs of food, labor, and real estate are not going back to 2002 levels. The world has changed. And more importantly, corporate strategy has fundamentally shifted. Brands aren't building their marketing around a single fixed price anymore. They're building it around flexible digital promotions. Even if a chain did bring back a $1 menu today, it would be a ghost of its former self. It would feature tiny portions, use the lowest cost ingredients, and would exist only as a short-term gimmick to get you in the door. It wouldn't be a sustainable business model. It would be a temporary and likely disappointing stunt. The death of the $1 menu wasn't a murder committed by a single villain named corporate greed, though that was definitely a character in the story. It was death by 1,000 cuts, a slow collapse under the weight of an economic model that simply stopped making sense. It was a perfect storm of inflation, soaring costs, and a fundamental conflict between a marketing promise and a franchisee's need to survive. The world that made the $1 menu possible, a world of lower wages, cheaper ingredients, and less expensive real estate, is gone. In its place, we have the new normal. The idea of value lives on, but in a different form. It lives in the 2 for $6 bundles, the app-exclusive coupons, and the limited-time $5 meal deals. The era of walking into any fast food joint in America, pulling a single dollar from your pocket, and walking out with a hot meal is officially a relic of history. It was a golden age for sure, but it's an age that is firmly in the past. So what was your go-to $1 menu order back in the day? Let me know down in the comments. Thanks for watching.